Hello, friends and clients. I am Jennifer Walker Gates of JLW Immigration Law Group. Let me fix my hair. I'm a board certified immigration attorney, and I'm here today to share some information with you, the immigrant community in the United States, about the immigration process. Hopefully, information that is grounded in reality and real experience, so that you have information that is not just based in rumors and hearsay, but rather is actually helpful for you. That is what we are here to do. Today, I'm going to be talking about some new changes in the immigration interview process for citizenship applications for people who are going through the process of obtaining citizenship after having been a permanent resident. There have been some changes recently that we have observed with interviews and the way that those are being handled. So we'll be talking about that today so that everyone who is going through that process is aware and prepared. Before we get into today's topic, I want to start with a thank you. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. So I want to start by saying thank you, immigrants, for choosing the United States as your home. Thank you for bringing your energy, your ingenuity, your values, your hard work, your commitment, your self-sacrifice. I've seen this over and over and over again in thousands of clients that I've worked with in the 20 years that I've been doing this work. And I am always grateful when I meet people who have given so much to my country, have given up so much of their own energy, their own work, their own comfort and convenience in order to contribute to the United States. So I am grateful to you immigrants for doing that. This holiday, this Thanksgiving, my hope for all of us is that we can feel relaxed, joyful, prepared for whatever may come. In this particular moment in time, if we are dealing with people who want us to feel afraid, then it is an act of resistance to feel relaxed. If we are dealing with people who want us to feel small and powerless, it is an act of resistance to be prepared. If we are dealing with powerful people who want us to feel uncomfortable, it is an act of resistance to experience love and joy and to share that with our families and our circles of friends and our community. So this holiday, I want us to engage in those types of resistance, feeling joy, sharing love, feeling prepared for whatever may come, so that we can resist the lovelessness and the fear that is being thrust upon us by people in power these days. So with that, let's get into it. I will answer questions as soon as I have shared with y'all some stuff that we have been observing recently with respect to naturalization interviews. If you are not going through the naturalization process yet, this is still important for you to keep in mind, because we want everybody who is able to become a U.S. citizen to do so. It is the best way to secure a long-term status in the United States with the most freedoms. You can travel extensively as a U.S. citizen. Having a U.S. passport does give you access to a lot of places in the world that other passports don't. That is still true. Hopefully it will remain so. Having U.S. citizenship allows you to be able to leave the United States for as long as you want without having to ask permission. It allows you to petition other family members. It allows you to really feel a sense of security and the ability to participate in our political system as well, and to vote, to get involved, to run for office, to support candidates who support just and fair and humane immigration laws. So these are all reasons to become U.S. citizens. We really encourage all of our clients who are eligible to do that to proceed. So even if you're not doing that process right now, this is a good interview for you to listen to, because one day, hopefully, you will. So what we are seeing with respect to naturalization interviews is that they have become a little bit longer and a little bit more in-depth over the past couple of months at USCIS offices, at least in San Antonio. And I am hearing this from colleagues around the country. Typically, historically, when people have gone to their interview for the naturalization application, the officer begins with the test, the citizenship test. That's a list of 100 questions. It has changed under the Trump administration. They have made the test longer. However, in these interviews, the officers ask a series of currently they're asking 10 questions. Under the new test, they'll be asking up to 20. And you need to be able to answer at least 6 correctly under the current test that's being administered. And then in the future, when the new test takes effect, you will need to be able to answer at least 12 of the 20 questions correctly. In addition to that test, the officer is expected to review the questions in the N400 application. The N400 application currently has 14 pages. Many of those pages are questions about your criminal history and security questions. The vast number of applicants are going to answer no to almost every single question on that form. They have a lot to do with stuff that most people just are never involved with, like genocide, drug trafficking, prostitution, military training, persecuting other people, being involved in human trafficking, recruiting child soldiers. There are a lot of really serious crimes that are inquired about and asked about in this application. So the vast majority of applicants are going to be answering no to almost every single question that the officer is asking, because what we're seeing now, as opposed to the past, is that officers are asking every single question. Previously, we saw officers kind of going generally over the different kinds of categories. Have you ever been involved in harming anyone for practicing their religion or their faith or their political opinion? Or have you ever harmed someone because of their race? They didn't necessarily ask, have you, ever persecuted someone for practicing their faith, and then actually verbatim reading the questions. We are seeing now that they are verbatim reading every question. And it's taking longer, and it's requiring applicants to listen more carefully in order to answer questions correctly. When the officer is reading through all those questions, it is really important to maintain attention on what they're asking, because if you do need to say yes instead of no, for example, if they say, have you ever been in removal proceedings? And in fact, you were in the past in removal proceedings. That doesn't mean that you're not qualified for naturalization, but you do need to answer that question truthfully and correctly in that moment. So it's important not to zone out as they're going through these dozens of questions that do not apply in any way, shape, or form to your life, to listen carefully for the ones that do actually apply to your case and your history. So it's really important to maintain attention when they're asking about past removal history, if you've ever been in removal proceedings, if you've ever been arrested, because the question is very broad. It's not just arrested. It also asks about citations and detentions, which can be just a traffic ticket. So it's really important, unless you've never ever had a traffic ticket, to listen carefully for that question and answer it in the affirmative. Yes, I have had speeding tickets, or yes, I was arrested for DWI once 10 years ago. I completed everything. I turned in all the paperwork. Everything is in my filing and you have access to it. Being able to respond correctly to those questions in that interview is very important. And it can become quite daunting to pay attention to every single question when you're listening to them read through literally dozens of questions that have nothing to do with you. The other tricky thing about this is that after they go through questions about your security history, your criminal history, your immigration history, your personal history and information, all those crazy security questions and all of that, they are going to pivot and ask, um, do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? That begins on page 10 of the application. That begins the questions regarding the oath of allegiance. It is really important to be paying attention when they switch from criminals and security background questions to oath of allegiance questions so that you can ask them correctly. The questions about the oath of allegiance are also kind of odd. They're written a long time ago. They use language that we don't typically use in everyday conversation anymore. For example, if the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces, or are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction? These questions are worded in a way that we don't typically use anymore, and so it's really important to know how to answer those, know what those mean ahead of time, and be ready for those questions when they do pop up in the list of questions that the officer is reading, so that when they ask if you support the form of government and the Constitution of the United States, you don't just automatically say no. You definitely don't want to answer no to that question or any of the questions, ideally, in the oath of allegiance. So paying close attention in the naturalization interview has become a little bit more challenging. You are going to be nervous also in that interview. That is very normal. Everybody is nervous in that interview, and that is does not mean anything is wrong or anything has gone wrong in your case. It means you have a nervous system that functions properly and is letting you know, hey, something important is happening here. And it can be very distracting to be that nervous as well. So it is just important to train ahead of time when you are going to go to your interview. We definitely recommend at our office taking an advocate to that interview. Even if you don't file your application for naturalization with an attorney or a law office, if you do have the opportunity and the resources to hire an attorney to accompany you to the interview, we definitely recommend doing that. That is the moment when the rubber meets the road in that application process. It is really helpful to have another individual present and able to observe the officer's demeanor, behavior, professionalism. We have seen officers who have mistreated applicants for adjustment of status and naturalization when there was not an attorney present. We have heard these stories way too many times. For that reason, with our clients at JLW Immigration Law Group, we 100% of the time attend the interviews with our clients, or we have a colleague that is attending with our clients. The attorney's role is not to speak much. It is really mostly an observer role. So it doesn't have to be an attorney with like a ton even of experience or expertise. It can be someone who is simply a good observer. As long as they're there taking notes, making sure that the officer is following the law and treating the applicant respectfully, that is really the goal. So if we can help you with your particular case, please contact us. We are honored and passionate about helping the immigrant community through this process. We are really successful with our cases. We are passionate about doing this and happy to help. Please schedule an appointment with us if we can help in your case. You may do that at our website, jlw.law. There's a button on that website where you can click to schedule with me or any of the attorneys in our firm, and we will be glad to assess your case, give you an honest assessment of what we think is the best strategy, help you prepare for whatever interview or encounter hearing may be coming up with the immigration authorities, so that you are prepared, you are calm, you are ready for whatever may be coming. I hope with that, that this has been helpful. I hope that everyone has a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Please reach out to us if we can be of help. And with that, I am signing off for today. Thank you so much. Take good care.